Have you ever realized that she never calls or texts you first? No matter how long you wait, it's always you who ends up making the first move. If that sounds familiar, pay close attention, because what you choose to do next will decide whether she starts chasing you or simply forgets you. When a woman never initiates contact, most men's natural reaction is to jump in and fill the silence. You keep sending messages. You keep making calls. You keep showing up in her inbox because you're afraid of losing the connection. You convince yourself that by proving your consistency, by always being the one to reach out, she'll eventually notice your effort and start giving you the attention you're craving. But the truth works in reverse. The more you respond to her silence with presence, the more you show her that you're fine with being taken for granted. Without saying a word, you're telling her she doesn't need to make any effort, because you'll always be there, regardless of how little she gives back. And when she realizes this, she has zero motivation to change. Why would she start initiating when she knows you'll always do it for her? This is how countless men unknowingly sabotage their chances. They confuse persistence with desperation. There's a big difference between showing interest and overcompensating for someone else's lack of it. A man who pours endless energy into someone who doesn't reciprocate isn't being loyal, he's being blind. Women pick up on this quickly. Instead of admiring your persistence, they begin to question your value. They start to think, if he's always available for me no matter how much I ignore him, maybe no one else values him either. By constantly chasing, you create the illusion of scarcity, that you have no other options, no other conversations, nothing else going on. And nothing kills attraction faster than a man who looks like he has no choices and no boundaries. When you stop rewarding her silence, you're making a powerful, unspoken statement: my time and attention are not free to those who don't value them. And that single shift changes everything. Instead of ignoring your messages and still receiving the same level of effort, she's confronted with the fact that your attention isn't guaranteed anymore. Suddenly, your absence speaks louder than your presence ever did. The texts she once ignored become the texts she notices aren't arriving anymore. The calls you used to make become the calls she realizes she's now missing. Choosing not to reward her silence isn't about playing games. It's about breaking a toxic cycle. You're not punishing her, you're protecting your self-worth. Every time you answer her lack of effort with more effort, you lower your own standards. But when you stop chasing someone who won't respond, you show her, and yourself, that you respect yourself too much to be trapped in a one-sided pursuit. And here's the truth most men miss: women respect men who respect themselves. She may never say it out loud, but she feels it. When you stop chasing and stop rewarding her silence, you create a boundary that forces her either to step up or step aside. You need to remember that attention is like currency. The more freely you hand it out, the less value it holds. If she never has to earn your attention, your texts lose meaning, your calls lose impact, and your presence loses weight. But when you hold back, when you only invest in people who reciprocate, your attention becomes rare, and rare things are always valued more. By refusing to reward silence, you raise the worth of your presence. You're teaching her, and reminding yourself, that connection must be mutual, effort must be balanced, and respect must go both ways. One of the most crucial principles with women is this: match her energy. Too many men waste time and emotions by pouring themselves into someone who gives back almost nothing. You text her 3 times without a single reply. You call her again and again when she doesn't even answer once. You change your schedule just to see her, while she never considers yours. Each time you do this, you create an imbalance that slowly kills her respect. Women are intuitive, they can sense when a man is putting in far more than she's willing to give. And nothing makes her lose interest faster. But when you start mirroring her energy, when you stop overextending and only match her effort, you protect your dignity and reset the balance. Matching her energy isn't about being rude or cold. It's about keeping things level. If she texts, you text. If she calls, you call. If she makes time, you make time. But if she goes silent, you don't force communication just to fill the gap. You let her silence speak, and you respond accordingly. This way, you avoid being the one carrying the relationship alone. Because if you're the only one putting in the work, she'll never feel the need to. Comfort turns into complacency. But when you reflect her behavior back to her, she's forced to face the reality of her own effort, or lack of it. The beauty of matching energy is that it creates a mirror. If she's genuinely interested, she'll see that when she gives more, she gets more. It becomes a natural flow of give and take. If she's not invested, her lack of effort will become crystal clear, and you save yourself months or years of wasted time. Either way, you win. Matching her energy saves you from heartbreak and keeps the connection balanced. It communicates without words that you're not desperate, that you value yourself too much to pour into someone who won't pour back. What most men don't realize is this: when you keep doing more than she does, you actually rob her of the chance to invest. You think you're showing love, but in reality you're suffocating the relationship by not letting her contribute. Women need to feel like they matter to the connection, that their actions influence your behavior. If she feels you'll always do all the work no matter what, she'll slowly detach because her role feels meaningless. But when you match her energy, you leave space for her to step up. She knows that if she doesn't put in effort, you won't either, and that realization forces her to act. Matching energy also preserves your peace of mind. Instead of stressing about why she didn't reply, instead of overanalyzing if she still likes you, you simply follow her lead. If she pulls back, you pull back. If she comes closer, you come closer. There's no guessing, no overthinking, no chasing. You let her behavior guide yours, and that keeps you in control. And control doesn't mean manipulation. It means you're no longer drained by one-sided effort. You simply reflect what she gives, and that keeps you balanced. Think of it like a dance. A dance only works when both partners move in rhythm, giving energy that complements the other. If you keep moving while she stands still, it's no longer a dance, it's desperation. But when you only move as she moves, when you only step as she steps, you force her to participate if she wants the dance to continue. That's what matching energy really is, a silent, powerful way of demanding balance without arguing, begging, or complaining. It's showing, not telling, that you won't give more than you receive. One of the biggest traps men fall into with a woman who never initiates is obsessing over her replies. You send a message, and suddenly your entire mood depends on whether she answers quickly, hours later, or not at all. Your mind spins: is she busy? Is she ignoring me? Did I mess up? Is she losing interest? Before long, your entire day is controlled by the sound of your phone. This is how so many men give away their power. The second you make her responses the center of your life, you hand her control over your emotions. Instead of being grounded, you become addicted to her validation. And that dependency always makes you look weak. Women are drawn to men who are centered, men with purpose, drive, and lives outside of a relationship. When you stop waiting on her replies and start focusing on yourself, you shift from needy to powerful. Focusing on yourself doesn't mean ignoring her or pretending she doesn't matter. It means redirecting your energy into what makes you grow, into the things that build your value and remind you that your worth doesn't come from whether she texts you back. A man who wakes up with goals, with discipline, with passion, doesn't have time to sit staring at his phone. He's too busy living, progressing, becoming someone of substance. And here's the irony: when you stop obsessing over her replies and pour that energy into yourself, she notices. Suddenly, she's not the center of your world. That shift creates curiosity. She starts wondering what you're doing, where your attention is going, why you're not so available anymore. Curiosity often becomes pursuit. But even if it doesn't, you still win. Because you're building yourself. Think about it: every minute spent stressing over her texts could have been invested into your fitness, your career, your passions, your mindset. Time wasted on waiting is time you'll never get back. But time invested in yourself raises your value and naturally attracts better relationships and deeper respect. Your silence becomes powerful, not because it's empty, but because it's filled with growth, discipline, and purpose. Women are drawn to men with vision. A man with purpose doesn't beg for attention, his presence commands it. When you focus on yourself, you show you're not dependent on her for happiness. You show your world is bigger than just one person. You show you're whole, confident, fulfilled on your own. That kind of energy is magnetic. A man who doesn't crumble just because she didn't reply is always more attractive than one who's desperate for her attention. The more you invest in yourself, the less you care whether she replies at all. Because you understand, her messages don't define your worth. They don't make you who you are. Whether she texts you or not, your life, your goals, your growth keep moving forward. And when you hold that mindset, you can't lose. If she starts appreciating your absence and comes back with real effort, great. If not, even better, because you've already outgrown her lack of effort. Here's a truth most men overlook: no one can miss what never leaves. If you're constantly calling, constantly texting, constantly trying to keep her attention, you might think you're keeping the connection alive, but really, you're suffocating it. Attraction is created not only by presence, but also by absence. A woman cannot miss you if she never experiences your absence. That's why giving her space is powerful when she never initiates. By stepping back, by allowing silence, you create an emotional gap where she can actually feel your value. If you're always available, always one button away, you become predictable and easy to take for granted. But when you pull back, you become noticeable in your absence. Giving her space isn't about ignoring her out of anger or playing childish games. It's about not forcing something that should be natural. It's about creating distance so she can reflect on whether she truly values you. When you're always around, she never gets that chance. But when you step back, she's left with silence, and that silence makes her think. Suddenly she wonders why you're not texting like before. She questions what changed. She starts asking herself if someone else has your attention now. And often, that thought alone is enough to spark pursuit. Most men fear giving space because they think it means losing her. They believe if they stop pushing, she'll forget. But here's the truth, if she forgets you just because you gave space, she never cared to begin with. And that's not a loss, it's a blessing, because it saves you time you could have wasted. On the flip side, if she does care, your absence will trigger her to act. She'll reach out, because she realizes the attention she took for granted is no longer guaranteed. Absence restores balance. If she's used to you doing all the chasing, she becomes lazy. But when you step back, she has no choice but to either contribute or walk away. In both cases, you win. Because if she contributes, she values the connection. If she walks away, you've saved yourself from a dead end. Never underestimate the power of absence. Think about how much more you value things after they're gone. That same principle applies here. By not always being available, you give her the chance to feel your void, and that void is what creates longing. Longing creates attraction. When she feels the shift from you always being there to suddenly not, she realizes how much space you actually held in her life. That realization is what makes her miss you. And when she misses you, she's far more likely to call, to text, to initiate, because now she knows your presence isn't something to take lightly. When a woman never calls or texts first, it's tempting to make excuses for her behavior. You tell yourself maybe she's shy, maybe she's busy, maybe she just doesn't like texting. Maybe she's waiting for you to lead every time. These thoughts keep you chasing, hoping she'll eventually change. But here's the reality, genuine interest never hides forever. If someone truly wants you in their life, they'll find a way to show it. The only way to know for sure if she's serious, or just keeping you around as an option, is to test her interest. This isn't about playing tricks. It's simply pulling back enough to see if she makes an effort when you stop doing all the work. Testing her interest brings clarity. You already know what happens when you carry everything yourself. She grows distant, she gets comfortable, and she puts in no effort. But when you stop being the one who always initiates, the line becomes clear, genuine interest versus convenience. If she truly cares, the moment you stop texting and calling nonstop, she'll notice. She'll reach out. She'll show you she doesn't want to lose the connection. But if she doesn't care, your silence will only be met with silence, and that's your answer. It might hurt, but it saves you months or years of wasted energy. The power of this test is that it forces her to reveal her true intentions without you asking. If she knows you'll always reach out, she never has to reveal anything. But when you step back, she has to choose, either step forward or fade away. And either way, you finally know where you stand. Testing her interest also protects your self-respect. Instead of begging for attention, you're letting her actions speak. And actions always reveal the truth. If she wanted to call, she would. If she wanted to see you, she would. If she wanted to talk, she would. It's really that simple. The test is straightforward but powerful. Stop doing what you usually do and watch. If you always text first in the morning, stop. If you always call at night, don't. If you always plan the dates, step back. Then observe. If she values you, she'll break the silence. If not, she won't. And that's your answer. Testing her interest isn't just about her, it's about you too. It makes you face whether you've been investing in someone who deserves it. It forces you to see if the relationship is balanced or one-sided. Most importantly, it reminds you that your worth isn't proven by chasing someone who refuses to give back. Eventually, you have to ask yourself, why am I tolerating this? Why am I accepting the bare minimum and convincing myself it's enough? If she never initiates, never contributes, yet you still hold on hoping she'll change, the issue is no longer her, it's you, and the standards you've set for yourself. A man who values himself doesn't beg for attention, doesn't tolerate neglect, and doesn't waste time on people who consistently show him he's not a priority. If she can go days without checking in, if she can watch you pour effort into her while giving almost nothing back, then the real question isn't whether she cares about you, it's whether you care enough about yourself to raise your standards. Raising your standards means you stop entertaining one-sided connections. It means you no longer chase people who don't chase you. It means you refuse to invest in situations where you're the only one showing up. When you raise your standards, rejection no longer looks like a loss, it becomes a filter. If she doesn't meet your standard of mutual effort, she filters herself out, leaving room for someone who truly values you. Too many men hold on to women who give them almost nothing because they fear being alone. But that fear keeps them trapped in mediocrity. Raising standards requires courage. It means saying, I'd rather stand alone than lower myself just to keep someone who doesn't really want me. When you don't raise standards, you end up begging for crumbs of attention. You overthink every interaction. You live anxious and insecure because deep down, you know the connection isn't balanced. That's not love. That's self-neglect. And the longer you accept it, the more you convince yourself it's all you deserve. But the moment you raise standards, everything shifts. You stop begging for calls or texts, because the right woman gives those naturally. You stop settling for inconsistency, because you know consistency is the foundation of real interest. You stop wasting time on someone blind to your worth, because you know your worth doesn't disappear just because she fails to see it. Raising standards also sends a message to others. It shows you're not desperate. It shows you're not afraid to walk away. It shows your self-respect comes before validation. Women respect men who respect themselves. When she realizes you'll cut off communication rather than tolerate neglect, she sees you differently. You're no longer the man she can take for granted, you're the man who commands respect through actions, not words. And that shift either pushes her to rise to your level or proves she never intended to meet you there. Either way, you win. Ultimately, raising standards means living from abundance, not scarcity. It's knowing there are countless women out there, but only a few who will truly value you. And those are the ones worth your time. When you stop settling for less, you start attracting more. When you stop accepting neglect, you start experiencing respect. When you raise your standards, you don't have to force anyone to call you first, text you back, or put in effort. They'll do it naturally, because they see your value, and because they know you won't tolerate anything less. And that kind of energy doesn't just transform your relationships, it transforms your entire life.